What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. I've got the Umbro Velocita Alchemist Pro here ready to review. Umbro boots have kind of flown under the radar for me. I haven't really paid much attention to them, but I am really excited to get my hands on a pair of one of these and do a giveaway as well. So at the end of this video, stay tuned for more information about that with one of these pairs. So without further ado, let's hop into the unboxing and I'll explain some of the tech features of this boot and really hop into why this boot is an interesting one and whether or not it's suitable for most foot types, etc. So let's hop straight into the unboxing. So we have the Umbro box here. Several of the Umbro boxes in my at least what I know of them are all kind of different. This one has obviously a ton of Umbro logos on it. This one is in my usual size 9 US. They retail for about $250 in the US. So that gives you a good idea of what those are. Pretty simple, standard box. So without further ado, let's hop into regular paper. Ooh, interesting. Okay. All right, so there is the Umbro Velocita Alchemist Pro. So this is a really interesting boot because it is essentially, the idea behind this boot is you get recycled materials and also a single knit layer here in the of the upper. So it's a super thin boot. It's incredibly lightweight, and it's also made from recycled polyester yarns, which is a really interesting feature. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but let's get these unboxed as well. So there's that. No string bag attached to this boot, so we'll just go like this and throw that one here for you guys. There we go. All right. So the Alchemist Pro, really interesting boot here. I really haven't heard of or know much about Umbro boots other than those classic ones that we as kids used to wear, those leather classic ones, which I'll also review as well. I got a pair of the classic Umbro boots, but those were like a lot of, my wife's first pair of football boots were those Umbro boots. Some other players that I know also wore Umbro as their first, black and white leather football boots when they were 5 to 10 years old. And this Alchemist Pro is not that. This is their speed boot. This is their recycled polyester yarn upper, which is called Pro Weave. So there's a little tag here. So there's that boot again. Really interesting looking. I don't think it looks bad. I don't think it looks insane. I don't think the silo is nice, but I don't think it's probably dead average for me as far as how this looks. And it is, so it says here on this little tag, Pro Weave, fabrics reimagined, multi-zonal stretch, recycled. At least 40% of this upper is made from recycled polyester, and high abrasion resistance, lightweight, breathable. So really cool, actually. I like the concept of making recycled boots. Obviously, that does potentially harm the sort of the softness and the way that this boot might fit and feel. I don't know because I haven't tried this boot on yet. You guys will see later in the video that the on-feet portion. So that's something just to consider as well. But other things that I'm noticing about this boot that we'll talk about, it's a very simple sole plate. So the sole plate is made from some little kind of arrow-shaped studs in the back. You get 2 arrow-shaped studs here on the lateral side, and then you have 4 conical studs and then some little support studs as well. This sole plate is really, really flexible, unfortunately. And for a speed boot, that is something that I tend to look for. I really like speed boots like the Speed Portal. Even the Air Zoom has some snapback as well, and the Mizuno Alpha obviously is a really great example. So all of those speed boots in the speed category have very rigid sole plates because the whole idea of a speed boot is to be able to really get energy return as you're moving forward and side to side. This sole plate is very thin. You can see the profile of this is super, super thin, and it really doesn't provide, well, here you go, right? That's pretty poor if I'm honest. We'll see, maybe it's amazing, but this is even more flexible than the Nike Phantom GX, which in my opinion works really well for what the boot is meant to be, but it's definitely not as responsive as a lot of other things on the market. So if you are somebody who's looking for a boot that's got the best sole plate, My opinion would be go for either Mizuno Alpha or any of the Adidas Carbitex inserts. Those will give you the most rigidity and spring back. This is like on the lower end. So that's something I do worry about a little bit with this boot, but you can see it does include this entire one-piece weave upper. It is super, super thin. Hopefully you guys can see that material. It is literally just one layer. There's no padding on the inside. A little bit of suede liner, right? As you can, hopefully you guys can see that as well. But there's a suede liner inside the boot, but it is super, super thin. It's got actually a decent amount of pliability to it, but as you can hear, hopefully I'll put it up to the mic. So it's not quite as plasticky as Speed Portal, but it definitely gives that, it's a knit-based material, but it is kind of, it does have a little bit of plasticky structure to it, which is interesting. We'll see how that goes. The heel liner actually feels incredible. So the heel liner is this really nice suede, let's see if we can go like that, there you go. Really nice suede in that heel right there. It's got this really nice, what seems like memory foam to it as well, so that might be a really nice feature. The lacing system is super shallow, so it only goes up to here. My guess is that's because they've made this upper simply one piece so that it really wraps your foot as best as possible. They really kind of want this upper, this knit upper to be, or this textile upper, I guess, to be the star of the show, which is fair enough. So again, Pro Weave upper, that's what that one is called. You've got biomimicked B-wing structure, which is what they're calling this dark blue. So you've got obviously the light gray blue and then this dark blue. It makes a single layer upper strong without sacrificing any of that multi-zonal stretch. So ideally, basically most boot makers will say that it's all different language to say, our upper is going to stretch and mold to your foot, but it's going to have structure at the same time. And you kind of have these two, you have these two competing ideas, and it's always either lots of structure, not a lot of structure, and break-in ability, so to speak. So for them, this is this like B-wing, biomimicked B-wing, which is a really fancy word for it just looks like a B-wing, which is kind of funny to me. But cool concept anyway. We'll see how it actually, if it makes any difference in the way that the lateral lockdown is, especially here in this midfoot area. The boot doesn't look exceptionally wide. So there you go, top down. It doesn't look exceptionally wide. There is a decent amount of width here in the forefoot area, but again, we'll see how these fit, if there's any weird gaps in the ankle area, which I really don't like as well. There is a tiny bit of grip. It is kind of a matte finish here on the upper as well, so it's not going to be super grippy. There's this B-wing structure basically that they have in here. These yarns are coated almost similar to the Phantom Ultra or even the Grip Knit from Nike. So it's a very interesting, it's got kind of a waxy feel to it. So there, maybe the light will kind of shine off of it, but it's got a little bit of a waxy feel, which actually is kind of nice. Maybe it gives a little bit of grip. It would be nice to have more grip kind of in the zones like here and maybe on the outside a little bit more where you would touch the ball more, but who knows? Maybe this boot is just going to be exceptional and just a super raw and nice speed boot sensation, which could be super cool. So as I mentioned before, this is a Pebax sole plate as well. That's sort of the Sprint Plus outsole, as they call it. I am a little worried that this is going to be like totally lack structure. You can see I can twist the boot like crazy. That's one thing. Yes, you get a super lightweight fit and feel, but again, I tend to like a little bit more structure than being able to basically barefoot fold the shoe in half. So it is quite lightweight. So if you are looking for something that's a super lightweight fit and feel and is really unique, because this boot doesn't have there's not a lot of people who I know who wear Umbro speed boots. In fact, I don't know anyone who wears Umbro speed boots. So if you are interested in something that's a little more unique, this might be something worth checking out. I'm super curious to know how these fit and feel on feet. So without further ado, let's hop into the on feet portion of the video, and I'll talk more about sizing, how they fit width-wise, who they're meant for, and if you should pick up a pair, especially at the $250 retail price. All right, fam, out here on the pitch with the Velocita Alchemist Pro. I am very interested to try these on. Just recently, i.e. earlier today, when I was doing the unboxing, I was like, okay, recycled football boots, interesting concept, a little bit flimsy in the sole plate, but cool. And I'm really wondering what they're gonna feel like on feet. So let's just hop straight into the on feet portion of the video. I've got a ball here as well, so we're gonna play around with the ball, tell you guys what the touch and sizing is like, so we'll just hop straight into it. So here we go. Again, those are the Alchemist Pro. The one thing that I am a little bit worried about with this whole boot is how shallow this lacing system is. As you can see, there's not a ton of stretch to get into the boot, but we'll see how we go from there. I am wearing a pair of non-grip Zypher socks, and if you guys want 10% off your order for the grip sock version, go in the first link in the description and you can pick yourself up a pair. So here we go, straight on with the Alchemist Pro. So far so good. It's an interesting, they're really difficult to get on. Oh, I feel like I'm ripping the shoe. Holy crap. Oh, all the way in. There we go. Okay, wow. Okay, not super comfortable straight out of the box. I can tell you that much. Okay, give me a sec to kind of sort these out. My initial impressions are that these are super stiff. There's not a ton of width through this area. It might stretch a little bit, but we'll see. That heel, maybe it's just the way that I put these on, but the heel's pretty uncomfortable right now. We're gonna get these, excuse me, we're gonna get these laced up. Let me see if I can make them any more kind of form-fitting to my foot. Sizing seems to feel okay. It looks like my toes have about half a thumb's width, which for whatever reason doesn't feel that, like it doesn't feel too big to me with this boot. I don't know, maybe it's just because this is such a thin upper. But let's get this other one on. Man, my foot just like stays in this boot. That's crazy. Let's get this other one on as well. They are very, very difficult to get on. That is one thing that I am noticing right now. Try to pull the sock up as well. Yeah, the opening of this boot is like, holy crap. There we go. Wow. Okay, that's probably one of the most difficult pairs of boots I've ever tried on my feet, like just to get into the boot. Once you're in though, they really don't feel that bad. Like I mean, they're very stiff. I don't think this textile is very high quality on the upper. Obviously it is recycled materials, so there's only so much you can do with the recycled materials, but there you go. So that is the Alchemist Pro. And I will say they're not super comfortable. They're a very unique sensation on feet. So the best way I can describe them is like if you were wearing a pair of, I don't even know how to, they're very stiff, at least the upper is, and maybe that's why the sole plate is not stiff at all. Maybe it's like to compensate for the stiff upper. I don't know how long it would take me to break in these boots, but they're an interesting shape. It's like, it's this weird, and maybe this is what I was talking about earlier in the review as well, because on this outside, I'm getting a little bit of hot spot here on the outside, but really everywhere else in the boot seems to fit my foot pretty nicely. Like there's no weird gaps anywhere. It does fit about like a tiny, tiny bit long, but to be honest, because of how low profile, like if you can see how low to the ground this silhouette is, it really doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't feel like it's too, it's like too thin. As far as snapback, honestly, I don't know if this is, maybe it's just the way that they've balanced this boot out. Like if you can, there's kind of like the whole look on feet. I think they look fine. I don't think they're amazing looking, but I also don't think they're bad looking. It's such a weird sensation. They're really unique feeling, and that's something that I
don't say often in boots. I think a lot of boots are pretty, like you can look at the boot and you can say, okay, I can kind of gauge like what this boot's gonna feel like. This one is really interesting. And you know how I like flipped it basically in half with the sole plate being really almost flimsy. Like I know that's sort of a negative connotation word, but it really is kind of flimsy. But the upper is so, like it molds to your foot, but it's structured enough that my feet actually feel like this boot would be super responsive. And that's such a weird thing it's almost like they went more responsive on the upper as opposed to more responsive on the sole plate, which is like an interesting thing. And perhaps that's better for like lockdown and changing directions and stuff. But the boot actually doesn't feel that bad. Like it was really difficult and kind of painful to get on, but once you're into the boot, it kind of like sucks your foot in, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's a good analogy. There doesn't seem to be any weird spots where there's a little gap there on the side of my ankle, but really not that much. It feels like this knit material is really doing a decent job at wrapping my foot. So the more and more oh, there you go. There. So if you can see where that gap comes right there. Yeah, so fair enough. But again, a lot of boots do that for me anyway, first out of the box, because they're not broken in. I do kind of understand now why they would do the really shallow lacing system as opposed to putting this knit material in the middle all the way down to the bottom lace like a normal boot would. It feels like they're trying to create that B-wing structure here on, like, what did they say? Something about it being very similar to the B-wing structure, biomimicked, that would be kind of the star of the show in making sure that it stayed kind of grippy on either side. So you really want this part of the boot to stay structured. I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to get a ball involved. I'm interested to see what the touch is like. It's a very barefoot touch, that's for sure. You can't really, to be fair, this ball is super slippery, so it's not going to be that crazy of a grip, but this is this boot is super thin. If you're looking for one of the thinnest boots on the market, the sensation that this boot gives you, that's barefoot. It's a single layer of that kind of weave material, that pro weave material, and it really does do a decent job at feeling mega barefoot. And so for me, again, I don't think this is a boot that I'm going to wear a ton. I might try to do a 1-month review of these. Like passing the ball feels pretty natural. It doesn't feel super crazy. My heels are killing me right now. I think this boot is not really fit for my heel type, or the wider foot and the narrower heel. But as far as feel on the ball, like it gives a pretty nice feel on the ball. The sole plate does do a good job at giving you a little bit of extra sensation on the bottom of your foot. I would say this stud pattern is not super aggressive, so you'd be totally fine on an artificial pitch like this. Obviously, I'm pretty skeptical of Umbro boots just because, one, I just don't know them that well, and the sensation of trying on a boot and feeling it in hand, you can kind of tell how structured and maybe uncomfortable and stiff it's going to be. And these ones are definitely stiff. I'm starting to get hot spots on the side of my feet, but I don't think that this boot is at the point where I'm not going to break it in. I think this boot might be worth breaking it in. And I do think for some foot types, perhaps maybe for a little bit of a thinner foot type than mine, I actually think you might really enjoy these boots. So for that, I think, again, this is an interesting choice. If you're somebody who is also into sustainability and you're into recycled products, this is kind of the only one on the market that actually is a sustainable product, so to speak, and sustainable football boot, which is pretty cool. So Umbro, well done for that. If you guys are interested in the giveaway, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to the channel, comment down below your Instagram handle, and I will do a whole giveaway I only have another pair. I have 3 actually. Pair of size 9 US. So if you're a size 9 US, you can join the giveaway, and we'll go from there. So same color, same everything. Dope boot. Again, if you are somebody who has super wide feet, I would not recommend these. Definitely not. If you are somebody with kind of medium, average width foot or thinner feet, you actually might really like these because of how thin, how pliable, and frankly, how much the upper wraps your foot and is super responsive. So for me, these boots they're pretty good. I'm definitely still a little bit skeptical, but that's kind of just the nature of the game when it comes to my own feet and my own playing style as a current player. So that's something that I always keep in mind too, is I'm like, is this something that I could see myself wearing in games? Right now, the answer is no, but for a lot of people and for some, these might be an absolute yes as far as fit and feel is concerned. So no huge complaints about this boot. I think now having it on feet, having it with the ball, it'll do the job for sure. It's pretty responsive. I'd be curious to know once that upper breaks in, how that affects the lockdown, how that affects the way the boot is worn. I don't really feel like that flimsy bottom or sole plate, I guess, is much of an issue now that I've felt how locked in the upper makes you feel. So I guess there's a good balance there. But yeah, again, if you guys are interested in the giveaway, follow those details. Instagram follow, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, comment on this video with your Instagram handle, and I'll sift through everybody and sort that out. And then we'll do a giveaway in about a week or two's time from the release of this video, which will be cool. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you got value from this video. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.